My wife and I have just returned from a much-needed vacation during which we were also on board a cruise ship. You know, I'm always amazed by a cruise ship experience. Someone asked me after we got home, were you able to rest? And I said, well, I should have been. The only thing I was required to do on the cruise ship was breathe. Other people did everything for us. And in fact, when we went to dinner, if we ordered a bottle of San Pellegrino water to have with dinner, after a couple of sips, someone would swoop in to pick up the bottle and pour a little more in our glass. Literally, we were waited on hand and foot. I was thinking back to many years ago when I served in the U.S. military and was stationed on board a guided missile destroyer. Although a destroyer and a cruise ship are very similar in some respects, they're both out at sea, they're both staffed with hundreds of people, the experience was quite different. On a cruise ship, there are a few people scurrying around doing all the work while hundreds of people simply float around while they're weighted on hand and foot. On a battleship, a lot of the same things are taking place. People are eating meals, there's even times of entertainment, there's times of rest and relaxation. But the difference is everyone on a battleship has a role to play. Everyone on a battleship has a job to do. You know, the principal difference between a cruise ship and a battleship is on mission. A cruise ship is just floating around. You know, when I think about that, it makes me think about the way the church works in the world today. Many of us are part of cruise ship churches. In those churches, there are a handful of people scurrying around doing all the work and trying to meet everyone's needs, while multitudes of people are sitting simply saying, "Feed me." The church was never intended, however, to be a cruise ship kind of a church. The church was intended to be more like the battleship. We're on a mission, and everyone has a role to play in that mission. And while sometimes we may need to rest or to take in nourishment or even to be served, we also need to be each stepping into the role that we've been given to play. I know a lot of people whose lives seem to be just drifting around aimlessly as they look for one way or another to seek pleasure and happiness. But I'm convinced that true fulfillment in this life doesn't come from being weighted on hand and foot, but from finding the mission that God has given us and stepping into it. In Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 and 9, the Apostle Paul says, "For by grace you've been saved through faith, and this is not your own, it's the gift of God, lest anyone should boast." And then he goes on to talk about those of us who by grace have been saved through faith. He says, "For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works that God prepared beforehand for us to walk in." God has special plans and purposes for every one of His children, purposes that require us to join Him in His mission. I'm so grateful that as I travel around the world, I get to interact with the multitude of Mission Society cross-cultural witnesses who are doing just that, living into the good works that God prepared beforehand for them to walk in. I'm grateful for those men and women because they are finding the fulfilling life that God intended for them. I suspect that some of you listening to this message today may know in deep places in your hearts that God has plans and purpose for your life that include joining Jesus in His vision and His mission. And maybe you've just been drifting and floating around, just moving from one aimless thing to another. What do you say you consider prayerfully stepping forward and joining Jesus in His mission? If you'd like help with that, we're always ready to help mobilize you here at the Mission Society. And finally, I'm grateful for all of those of you who utilize your financial resources and your prayer resources to undergird and support all of the faithful women and men who are serving with us around the world. We couldn't do it without your encouragement, without your prayers, and without your support. So on what is essentially the first day of summer as we're recording this, the day filled with the most light of any day of the year, I want to wish you a light-filled summer, a light-filled life, and all the blessings of God. Thank you as always for your support of the Mission Society, and God bless you.